Well, folks, it happened. He's back. Like a recurring rash you just can't seem to shake, Donald J. Trump is once again the President of the United States. His return to power has sent shockwaves through the political landscape, both domestically and internationally. As if 2020 wasn't enough of a roller coaster ride, America decided to hop right back on that crazy train. The nation is bracing itself for another tumultuous journey, filled with unexpected twists and turns. And buckle up, buttercups, because this ride might not have any brakes. The political climate is more charged than ever, and the stakes are incredibly high. On January 20th, 2025, Trump was sworn in for his second term. The inauguration was a spectacle, drawing both fervent supporters and vehement protesters. It didn't take long for him to make his presence felt. The atmosphere in Washington, D.C. shifted almost immediately. In a flurry of executive orders exceeding any previous president on their first day, Trump set the tone for what promises to be a tumultuous 4 years. His agenda is clear, and he's wasting no time. Among his first acts were attempts to dismantle policies enacted by the Biden administration. This includes reversing climate change initiatives and healthcare reforms. He moved to end birthright citizenship, a bedrock principle of American law for over a century. This move has sparked widespread protests and legal challenges. He also blocked the enforcement of a TikTok ban, a move seemingly driven more by personal vendetta than national security. This decision has left many questioning his priorities. And, in a move that surprised absolutely no one, Trump pardoned those involved in the January 6th Capitol riot. This controversial decision has further polarized the nation. Yes, you heard that right. The people who stormed the very heart of American democracy, fueled by his own rhetoric, are now off the hook. This has raised serious concerns about the rule of law and accountability, so here we are, again. Facing down the barrel of another Trump presidency. The nation is on edge, unsure of what the future holds. And if the first few days are any indication, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Hold on tight, because this political saga is far from over. The return of Trump to the White House has cast a long shadow over the nation, stirring a mix of fear and uncertainty among the populace. It's like that feeling you get when you see your ex at a party, the one who always starts drama and makes everyone uncomfortable. Except in this case, the drama could have far-reaching consequences for American democracy. Public concern is palpable and the stakes are incredibly high. Except in this case, the drama could have far-reaching consequences for American democracy. Public concern is palpable. Polls conducted by institutions like Marist College and Ipsos Public Religion Research Institute paint a bleak picture, showing a nation deeply divided and worried. A significant portion of Americans fear the erosion of democratic norms and the potential for authoritarian rule under Trump. The anxiety is almost tangible. And it's not just the general public. Experts are chiming in too, raising alarms about the future of the country. The term being thrown around is competitive authoritarianism, a form of governance that blurs the lines between democracy and dictatorship. It's not a full-blown dictatorship, not yet anyway, but the signs are worrying. But it's a slow chipping away at democratic institutions, a methodical erosion that could lead to significant changes, a gradual consolidation of power that could have lasting effects on the nation's political landscape. Think of it like termites in the foundation of a house. They work slowly but surely, weakening the structure over time. You might not notice them at first, but eventually, the whole damn thing could come crumbling down, leaving nothing but ruins in its wake. Now, before we all start stocking up on canned goods and building underground bunkers, it's important to remember that America is still a nation of laws. The Constitution, that pesky document that Trump seems to have a love-hate relationship with, does provide some guardrails. These guardrails are designed to protect the democratic framework and ensure that no single individual can wield unchecked power. For starters, the 22nd Amendment prevents Trump from running for a third term. So no Trump dynasty, at least not through traditional means. The amendment was put in place to prevent any president from becoming too entrenched in power. And no, he can't just cancel the 2028 election, as much as he might fantasize about it. The electoral process is a cornerstone of American democracy. But let's not kid ourselves, folks. Trump has a knack for finding loopholes and exploiting weaknesses. His ability to navigate and manipulate the system is well documented. While he might not be able to stay in office indefinitely, he can certainly use his time to undermine the institutions that check his power. This includes efforts to weaken the judiciary and other oversight bodies. The media, the civil service, the judiciary, all are fair game in Trump's playbook. These institutions are vital for maintaining a balanced and fair government. And then there's the issue of voting rights. Remember the SAVE Act? That little gem, which would impose stricter voter ID laws and make it harder for minorities to vote, is likely to resurface. Such measures threaten to disenfranchise vulnerable populations because nothing says democracy like making it harder for people to actually participate in it. Ensuring that every eligible citizen can vote is fundamental to the democratic process. Even before he took office, Trump was hard at work sowing division and undermining public trust. His rhetoric, a toxic cocktail of grievance politics and outright falsehoods, has become all too familiar. Remember those pre-election rallies where he talked about using the military to quell chaos on election day? Or how about the time he labeled his political opponents like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi as enemies within? These aren't just off-the-cuff remarks, folks. They're calculated attempts to delegitimize his opponents and erode faith in democratic processes. The truly terrifying thing is that many Republican officials dismiss his statements as harmless bluster. They see it as Trump just being Trump, a showman playing to his base. But this kind of willful ignorance is dangerous. It normalizes his behavior and allows him to operate with impunity. The world takes notice. Global reactions to Trump's return. America's allies are watching with a mixture of disbelief and trepidation. It's like watching a friend get back together with their toxic ex. You want to be supportive, but you also know it's probably going to end badly. Again, Trump's America First agenda, which often alienated allies and emboldened adversaries, is back on the menu. His disdain for international cooperation and his tendency to prioritize personal relationships over strategic interests have left many world leaders wary. The international community, already grappling with a host of challenges, from climate change to global pandemics, now faces the prospect of a more unpredictable and isolationist America. The world holds its breath, hoping for the best but bracing for the worst. One of the most unnerving aspects of a Trump presidency is its inherent unpredictability. He's like a loose cannon on the deck of a ship, liable to fire in any direction at any moment. This volatility makes it incredibly difficult to anticipate his actions or predict the consequences of his decisions. His impulsiveness is legendary. He governs by tweet, often making major policy pronouncements on a whim, without consulting experts or considering the ramifications. This lack of forethought and deliberation creates chaos and uncertainty, both domestically and internationally. Adding to the sense of unease is Trump's penchant for conspiracy theories and his willingness to embrace fringe beliefs. This disregard for facts and evidence undermines public trust in institutions and erodes the very foundations of a functioning democracy. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Trump era will be its corrosive effect on American society. His divisive rhetoric, his willingness to exploit racial and cultural divisions for political gain, has left the nation deeply polarized. Trust in government and other institutions has plummeted. The very fabric of American society, held together by shared values and a belief in the common good, has been frayed. We are a nation divided, more distrustful of one another than at any point in recent memory. The normalization of his behavior, the acceptance of his lies and distortions, poses a grave threat to the future of American democracy. If we cannot agree on a shared reality, if we cannot have civil discourse based on facts and evidence, then our democracy is in peril. As if a global pandemic wasn't enough, Trump decided to add another layer of chaos to the mix. On his first day back in office, he withdrew the United States from the World Health Organization for the second time. His reasoning? A greatest hits compilation of grievances. He accused the WHO of mishandling the COVID-19 pandemic, being too cozy with China, and generally being a big meanie to the United States. Never mind that these accusations have been repeatedly debunked. Health experts are sounding the alarm. This withdrawal, they warn, could have devastating consequences. It weakens global health security, hinders efforts to combat infectious diseases, and leaves the world ill-prepared for future pandemics. But hey, at least Trump stuck it to those WHO bureaucrats, right? So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this new reality, this precarious moment in American history? The answer, as cliché as it may sound, lies in the hands of the American people. We cannot afford to be complacent. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the assaults on our democracy. We must remain vigilant, engaged, and informed. We must hold our elected officials accountable and demand better. This is not a time for despair, but for action. We must channel our outrage into constructive action. We must organize, mobilize, and make our voices heard. The stakes are too high, the consequences too dire to remain silent. The future of American democracy depends on it. And frankly, folks, it's exhausting to keep having to save it. But save it we must. Now let's get to work.